Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye. Today we'll be discussing verse 4, 28, 51 from the Srimad Bhagavatam. 51 is Tatra Purvatara Kaścit Sakha Brahmana Atmavan Santvayan Valguna Samna Tam Aha Rudatim Prabho Tatra, in that place. Purvatara, previous. Kaścit, someone. Sakha, friend. Brahmana, a Brahmana. Atmavan, very learned scholar. Santvayan, pacifying. Valguna, by very nice. Samna, mitigating words. Tam, unto her. Aha, he said. Rudatim, while she was crying. Prabhu, my dear king. Translation, my dear king, one Brahmana who was an old friend of King Puranjana came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. Purport. The appearance of an old friend in the form of a Brahmana is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. According to the Shruti mantra, Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakaya. The Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Suhrit, the best friend. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come back home, back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially, but whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment and instead turn his face toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto Him. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in his Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse Vyavasaya Mika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana, Bhagavad Gita 241, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on that line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, appeared before the queen as a Brahmana. But why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he can advise a sincere disciple from within. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satata yukdanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tang yenamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. In conclusion, if a disciple is very serious to execute the mission of the spiritual master, he immediately associates with the Supreme Personality of Godhead by Vani or Vapu. This is the only secret of success in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Instead of being eager to see the Lord in some bush of Vrindavan, while at the same time engaging in sense gratification, if one instead sticks to the principle of following the words of the spiritual master, he will see the Supreme Lord without difficulty. Srila Bilvamangal Thakur has therefore said, Bhaktistvai stirataya bhagavan yadi syar, daivena na palati divya kashori murti, mukti swayam mukulitanjali sevate sman, dharmartha kama gadaya samaya pratiksha. If I am engaged in devotional service unto you, my dear Lord, then very easily can I perceive your presence everywhere. As far as liberation is concerned, I think that liberation stands at my door with folded hands, waiting to serve me. And all material conveniences of dharma, religiosity, artha, economic development, and kama, sense gratification, stand with her. Kṛṣṇa Karnamrita 107. If one is very highly advanced in devotional service, he will have no difficulty in seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one engages in the service of the spiritual master, he not only sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but attains liberation. As far as material conveniences are concerned, they automatically come just as the maidservants of a queen follow the queen wherever she goes. Liberation is no problem for the pure devotee, and all material conveniences are simply awaiting him at all stages of life. I offer my respectful obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to Shri Shri Panchatattva, and to all the assembled devotees. Vansha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhubhyo vacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Now let's see. First of all, who's the person who can get air in this room as much as possible? Cross ventilation, more air movement, more oxygen. Second of all, let's see who can ask a really good question based on this verse. Did one pop up in your mind already from hearing it? If so, please feel free to ask and you can start the conversation.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for this purport. We read in the purport that one who is performing devotional service, he can see the Supreme Personality of Godhead everywhere. So, what does it really mean? Because we see Krishna's representations, but we do not see Krishna personally. So how do we understand?
Prabhupada gives an example that if you have a child and you're attached to the child, which is natural, and you drive up to your home and you're wondering if your child is home from school or not, and let's say it's your daughter, and you look and you see her little shoes on the porch, then by seeing the shoes, you immediately have this heart palpitation. Oh, my beautiful little daughter's home. You see her special red shoes she likes to wear on Fridays. And oh, my daughter's home. You haven't seen your daughter, you've seen her shoes. But because of a connection through affection, by seeing the shoes, then you think immediately of your daughter. And those who are in service, for instance, those who have developed this desire to give Krishna consciousness to others, which is Krishna's ultimate instruction. He says those whose preoccupation is figuring out how to teach the Bhagavad Gita, the tenets of the Bhagavad Gita to others, they see every situation as an opportunity for imparting devotional service to others. Those who have experienced the internal potency of Krishna by going out, as another example, which you may be able to relate to, and distributing books to people, may, when driving down the street, be looking left and right thinking, oh, that guy would take. Oh, what about that person? They're getting away. Or that would be a good strip mall. I'd go door to door there. They're not seeing an ordinary city. They don't just drive through and think, oh, this is boring. They're thinking, okay, Lord Chaitanya has consolidated all these apartment buildings and streets and cities, gathering places, just for Sankirtan. And in the context of that, a devotee would see Krishna, think of Lord Chaitanya, and think of the order, every town and village, and see Krishna in that. And what's more, when Krishna talks about himself in the Bhagavad Gita, he describes how, when we look at the world in general, we'll see his vibhutis, or his opulences, and then think of him. For instance, in the Gita he says, Punya ganda prativyam cha tejas chasmi vibhavaso jivanam sarvabhuteshu tapas chasmi tapasvishu. One of my favorites is the smell of the earth, which can come in various ways. One way is in the first rainfall, after a long time. If you have the good fortune of walking outside just after it's rained, and that smell, yes? Yes. And, oh, that's Krishna. And then Prabhupada gives another example of how the flower, which this morning had the fortune of receiving a little sniff of the flower Vijay Prabhu was taking around, and he snuck up on me and put the flower there, and I smelled the gardenia. What is that smell? It's highly unusual. It's a pleasant, I think, one of the most pleasant smells on the earth. I have a predisposition to like gardenias because I remember them from the old days when I was a kid. But that smell is something you can't reproduce in a laboratory. It's natural smell of the earth extracted by Krishna's engineering that he would bring it out. So one may then think about flowers and how then one looks around and sees flowers and thinks, which ones can I get to offer to Krishna? This is in service, and you just don't see flowers, but you see which ones can I take. Of one of my godbrothers, wherever I go with him, he's always looking out the window because he has this way of looking for flowers in every neighborhood, and he'll go back later when it's dark. So always see, everyone else is looking at road signs or which direction to go, and he's scoping out where are the flowers. I'll go back later, and what's his intention? I'm going to offer them to Krishna. So when one's engaged in service, there's a way in which everything becomes connected to Krishna, and Prabhupada gives this overall guidance that one should see the entire universe as paraphernalia to be used in Krishna's service. And that's the practical way in which, by following the path of service, one sees Krishna within everything. Yes. Mukharavind and then Bali Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. And this reminds us that last year we had the Govardhan reading of this same canto, and we were discussing this section, and it reminded me of that hold that scene. The question I had, that there's one of the line Prabhupada very emphatically says that when we try to follow when we are serious for the mission to follow the spiritual master, that is tantamount to serve the Krishna. So my question is that I'm
Tantamount to what?
tantamount to see the Krishna.
To seeing Krishna.
Seeing Krishna.
Yes.
So my question is that I'm a neophyte devotee and maybe I may not be able to follow completely. So what are the different levels of following the spiritual master is, and what is the good level to be at least, and from where we can rise to the higher levels? So if you can just describe different levels to follow the spiritual master.
One level is that one becomes acquainted with the mood and mission and the likely ways in which one's spiritual master wants to do service, and before the spiritual master asks, because of that awareness, is already ready before the spiritual master asks for it. That's considered the best. Second best is when the spiritual master asks for something, then one's immediately ready to deliver it. Third is that one is asked to do it and then does it begrudgingly. And the last class, which is not service at all, is one neglects altogether the order of the spiritual master and just does something else. Those are the 4 classes of service. And you may notice, as I've seen sometimes, in the context, for instance, of those who have served the personal body of the spiritual master. I saw some of Prabhupada's servants, and I've seen other exalted Vaishnavas with their servants, that the servitor will be just watching, and even if Prabhupada would move his hand, then I know what that means, he wants water, and he brings, before he has excuse me, I want water. They're tuned in. So, another instance, I remember in 1975 in Los Angeles when Prabhupada had called all of his leaders from around the world. It means they all had to fly into Los Angeles. He had a specific request for everyone at that time, and he wanted everyone there personally present. And so Los Angeles was packed full, and you can see the video of this, of devotees locally and from everywhere else. People would drive down from San Francisco or wherever else, and leaders had flown in. And if you watch, and Prabhupada's giving his Bhagavatam class, everyone's leaning in. What does Prabhupada want us to do now? And Prabhupada had built that suspense just so he could lean in and say, distribute as many books in as many languages all over the world. And in that way, the Krishna consciousness movement will expand automatically. And the devotees were ready to hear. They wanted to hear, what's the instruction? What's next? What do you want me to do now? Attentiveness to that. And final observation, although we could say more, Srila Prabhupada had been an exemplar of following the order of his spiritual master. His spiritual master told him, if you ever get money, print books. He told him that don't get bogged down by infrastructure and get distracted. It had happened to the Gaudiya Math, and his spiritual master had expressed some concern, more than concern. He was disappointed that some of his disciples had taken a different mood and had not been in the preaching spirit. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta told his disciple, Abhay Charanaravinda, that concentrate on this. And Prabhupada said, so I took this up from his mouth, that he liked books. And the first thing Prabhupada did when he got any money, which was scarce as hen's teeth at that time, he put it towards purchasing a small house where he could put a printing press. and reinforced the floor. The construction he did was to accommodate the printing press, and the purchase he made was for a printing press, because his order from his spiritual master was, if you ever get money, print books. So you can follow Prabhupada's trajectory and all of the ways that he established programs. For instance, the Bhakti Shastri was the spiritual master's idea, so he presented it. Prabhupada wanted diorama and art. This was one of his spiritual master's ideas to show to the world. And Prabhupada also had the mood of his spiritual master, which is yena tena pakarena mana krishna deveshayat, that first of all, help people to remember Krishna. Second of all, you can bring up all kinds of rules and regulations. So you can watch Prabhupada's adherence to the mood and mission of his spiritual master and see what he was doing. And then you can also hear that he said, this is my only qualification. And this is why I'm successful. He'll say over and over again that people say, I'm doing so many things. He said, I'm only following the order of my spiritual master. And it's by that potency that I'm able to spread the Krishna consciousness movement. One who's enveloped oneself in the order of the spiritual master, Prabhupada writes in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is enveloped by none other than the internal potency of the Lord. And he goes on to say a similar point, make a similar point, which is, it's by that particular potency that one comes to see Krishna face to face. It's practical because we can't just go to Vrindavan and, as Prabhupada said in the purport, try to see Krishna in every bush. But we can be spiritually entrepreneurial and find out what the order was from our acharya and the specific ways in which we can serve a Vaishnava, serve under a Vaishnava, and adhere to a particular instruction, and not jump here, there, and everywhere. And by doing that, then going deeply within that instruction, there's an expansive engagement for the devotee, which brings one multiple spiritual benefits. Shushusho shradhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syan mahatseveya viprapunya tirtanishevana. By serving a Vaishnava, and one naturally develops an affinity for hearing and chanting, which means advancement in devotional service. All good fortune comes from this. I hope that helps. Bali, Prabhu? Oh yes, you wanted to follow up. Okay, Bali and then Anapayani.
Krishna, Hare Hare. So, Maharaj, the fourth class you told about like the one who is like neglectful of the spiritual master's desire and everything. So what is the boundary that decides because of our some circumstantial situation, or when we are going through certain situation in the life, we may not be able to follow, or it looks like that we are neglecting. So what are the guidelines, or what are the criteria are there that we are not neglectful, but it's circumstantially we are not able to do?
Well, first of all, it doesn't apply to you at all. Just in case you were thinking at any chance. You're the least neglectful person I've ever met. And when one has a life situation that makes it difficult to fully embrace the order, then one should incubate the order within one's heart. Prabhupada said he kept the order of his spiritual master, which he received instantaneously upon meeting him, because as he described, he hadn't even risen fully from offering his obeisances in the first time he ever saw Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, when Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, you should spread this to the Western culture. And Srila Prabhupada, after some expression of his doubts about how that could be done and having them removed, then said when he walked out of there, he had accepted that was his goal in life, is to take up that order. And he said he couldn't do it for a long time. He was already ensconced in family life and business. So he didn't have the freedom. And it was very Well, it was a slightly different culture at that time too. Prabhupada, in order to go out, preach, travel all over the world, there was a idea, a sense of one had to take sannyas, and Prabhupada wasn't eager for that. He was young, he was with family, but that desire within his heart remained. And he kept it. And so he said, you can keep it there in an incubation. You can't neglect it, but you can keep it and incubate it. And there's a lot to be said for timing in life. The timing came for Prabhupada. If you're in a life of preparation, then the ideal service that you've inherited from your spiritual master, it'll come at the right time. So you keep it. And this is Prabhupada's example. So you can prepare as much as possible in the situation you're in, and then when the time is right, you can expand your service. Does that help? Okay. Bali and then Anapayini.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks, everyone. These are great questions.
Thank you, first of all. My compliments. When I was coming from New Vrindavan, Vaisesika Prabhu chanted the Prahlad's prayer, nursing prayer. So amazing. Prthu Mahārāja, Prabhupada disciple, his godbrother, he was also complimenting me in the airport. I said, not only this, there are many prayers, his treasure house in the mind. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. And as Kotakarna Prabhu mentioned, I was just reading the same verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can maybe get the purport. So, Sthabara Jangama dekhe tara murti, sarvatra haya nija ishtadeva sfurti. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhyalila, I think 8.171 or 271 something. So, it means that wherever a Mahabhagavat sees a form, a car, a tree, a building, he doesn't see that form. Rather, he sees the form of his Ishtadeva, means his own, the Lord, the Supreme Lord in anywhere. Then Prabhupada actually very nicely explained in the purport that for us, we should start with Rasoham of Sukunteya. Or then you can say Bhumi Apanalo Vayu. He gave the gradation that you can start with this because he cannot imitate a Mahabhagavat like everywhere. So that's why even though if you wanted to try to forcefully, sometime we forcefully, I want to see Krishna, I see Mukharbinda as a body, to be very honest. That he has 2 eyes, he has a hair, he is a corporate engineer. That we see it. It's very hard to see the level we go deeper. But we don't need to artificially say, but Prabhupada said, this is what we can see as a topmost devotees and what we can see in a bottom one, but still we can understand the gradation.
Very important citation from Shastra. Thank you, Bali Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anapayini. Bhakti.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, I was wondering what makes the spiritual master's instruction or order a potent, medium, or direct way to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
I was speaking earlier about Krishna's intention. Imagine how powerful our intention is. I've thought about relationships and how what we really want to know in our relationship is, does the person really like or love me? What's his or her intention? If you discover that the intention was something other than open-hearted love or appreciation or gratitude, then it takes a lot off of it, of the gesture. And then we can understand how perceptive we are of others' intentions in this world. In fact, the whole legal system is based only on this, my argument. It's to figure out, they put people through a panel and they say, what did you intend to do here? Was it a mistake? Did you do it unconsciously? Did you mean to do this? And depending on how much the person used their free will, fully knowing and did something to that degree, it's either considered to be meritorious or not. If you accidentally gave money to people because it fell off your truck, you're not considered to be benevolent. But if you pulled over the side of the road and you started handing it out to people who needed it, then you're labeled benevolent because you meant to do it. I'm bringing this up as the foundation for answering the question because devotional service is personal. Krishna is a person and he has intention. By extension, thinking, how powerful is an individual's intention in our life? Our parents' intention for us, a friend's intention, a teacher's intention, or any random person that we meet, what is their intention towards us makes such a difference. Think how powerful Krishna's intention is. Then, if we can ascertain, and one should be able to ascertain, it's not unknowable. In fact, Krishna says, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Although some people consider God a secret, he said, I'm right here, you know. I'm speaking right now. I'm talking. So there's a way in which Krishna expresses his intention. And you could look at the disciplic succession as a way in which Krishna has expressed his personal intention to Brahma. And Brahma then passed on, and this is Krishna's intention. Look at the 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto. Vyasadeva did a lot of service, and then his spiritual master adjusted it a little bit and said, I know what you're trying to do here, but Krishna's intention is a little different. Adjust it more. And there's a way in which that intention is the essence of the parampara. It's not so much the letter of the law, but the spirit of the law that counts. And when you're able to meet somebody who's been in association with those who have imbibed the intention of Krishna, it's subtle. And they've also then imbibed that same sense for this is what Krishna wants. And they give an instruction based on that. For instance, Prabhupada said, the main point, he gave 7 ideas. Here's 7 purposes. And they're all based on this intention of Krishna. You can match up whatever he said in Shastra. And you can match up the way that he presented it with the way that his guru presented it, and the spirit of it was there, which is the world is an opportunity for us, well, it's an opportunity for all of us to change our decision and then decide to serve Krishna. So we're offering that to everyone. So those who are connected to that sense of Krishna's intention in the line of association through the parampara, and then give it to others, are giving the most valuable substance, which is the essence of Krishna's intention. So that order then becomes imbued with that intention. And if we take it up, then we're also connected to it. There's a poetical verse from Prthu Mahārāja where he talks about how somebody whose life is fully dedicated to Krishna, when such a person speaks, the vibration is different because it's aligned. And that's also the topic of the 87th chapter of the Bhagavatam, 10th canto, the prayers personified Vedas. So how do you transmit spiritual sound through a material medium? Isn't it? It's a good question. It's been asked, apparently, as we find from that chapter. Oh yeah, somebody else asked that question. Someone else before them asked it. We've been discussing that a lot. And it comes down to Krishna is a person. he's got an intention, and those who are aligned with that, and then who speak on his behalf with no ulterior motive, then pass on that spiritual potency that comes from Krishna. Intention is powerful. Krishna's intention is the most powerful. Those who avail themselves to Krishna's intention through disciplic succession and pass it on to others carry a kind of potency. And when we take that, then we'll also directly experience the current that comes from Krishna, a spiritual energy. And no matter who we are, where we come from, what position we're in now, if we intentionally carry on the teachings, Krishna's teachings, without ulterior motive, then we'll also be connected to that current, and we'll also be potent in giving it to other people. That's my final answer. Hare Krishna. Thanks for asking. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And where's Vaikuntha? I don't see him. It's a dull day without Vaikuntha Prabhu. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the beautiful answers. What is the ulterior motive one can have? We just mentioned, right, the ulterior motive. Can you tell us more about the ulterior motives one can have?
Look up the word ulterior, please. Motive is subtle, but it's practically identical to intention. What's motivating one to do something? And there are various levels of motivation. One is categorically based on what's good for me. And just to keep in two categories, the other category is what's good for my service to Krishna. Or, translated another way, what's good for Krishna? What's pleasing to his senses? And Prabhupada Mahārāja says, Naivatmana prabodhayam nija labha purnam manam jano avidusa karano vranite yat yajjano bhagavati kam manam tachchatmane pratimukasya yata mukashri. When one's motivation is to please Krishna's senses, then one naturally becomes nourished and satisfied. And when we have a personal motive, for instance, there's a difference if one's chanting Hare Krishna, says Sanatana Goswami, and one thinks that I am Krishna. And thinking that by chanting this mantra, I'm going to merge into my rightful, or I'll assume my rightful position once I'm uncovered of being Krishna or God. And one who's chanting with a sense that I'm tiny, servant of the servant of Krishna, and I'm chanting Hare Krishna because I love Krishna. And I'm grateful to Krishna, not that I'm chanting because I am Krishna. Those are two different things. Two different motives for chanting Hare Krishna. One may also take something off the power of chanting, as giving an example of, for instance, chanting Hare Krishna and from one's heart glorifying Krishna, and chanting a kirtan. You're saying the Maha Mantra and the syllables, but if somebody listens more carefully, they may hear, look at me, look at me, look at me, everybody look at me. It's not as satisfying to the chanter, what to speak of others. Prabhupada had sometimes stopped kirtans, noticing something like that. So it's everything, really. Again, it goes to intention, motive. What's ulterior mean?
Ulterior, it means existing beyond what is obvious or admitted, intentionally hidden. It comes from mid mid-17th century Latin, which means and it's ulterior, which means further or more distant.
More distant. Many of us in a Guru Puja in Jagannath Puri once, and Rajendra Nandana Prabhu led the kirtan, and musically, rhythmically, I wouldn't say that it would be rated on that level to be the topmost Guru Puja ever. But the devotees burst into tears listening to him to chant. He chanted with such intensity, and it was so obvious that he was chanting from his heart that the devotees couldn't stop themselves. They were looking around like, are you crying? Oh, I'm crying too. And there's a marked difference in the sound of somebody's voice. Sound carries consciousness. It comes out in the sound that we make. Whatever's in our heart gets broadcast everywhere. So Prthu Mahārāja said, when somebody's heart is pure and the motive is pure, when they say something, when they speak about Krishna, he said, their sound vibration, poetically now, the vibration touches Krishna's lotus feet. Krishna's lotus feet, for those who are fortunate enough to have served Krishna's lotus feet, and we do have the opportunity to serve the deity form, you make little chandan. You have a wooden stone, flat. In fact, I have one in the car and I need a little help later. And you have a chandan stick, and you put a little pure rose water and some pure camphor, and then you grind it, and it makes a paste. They don't have that at Salesforce, just saying. And you take it's nice to apply with a marigold. They're kind of compact, it's easy to use. You dip a little bit in, and you can dab it on Krishna's lotus feet. I forgot, other ingredient is saffron. That's also in my bag. A little saffron, all you need is one strand. Saffron's so potent. The fragrance of pure gulab, that means rose, not fake, the real thing. Pure camphor, not fake camphor, don't use that. A little saffron and sandalwood, and I found out yesterday there's 3 grades of sandalwood, 1, 2, and 3. You grind it up into a paste. It's otherworldly, and it's meant to dab on Krishna's lotus feet. So there it is. Then a tulsi. Put a tulsi leaf there. That's sublime. Say yes. Yes. Yeah. And then when somebody wants to please Krishna, they have no other motive. Prthu Mahārāja says that vibration, it contacts Krishna's lotus feet, and that mixture, it mixes with the sound of that person's voice. Then when you hear it, what is that? It just changed my decision in life. I was thinking that I would slog it out another lifetime and try to, as Prabhupada says in the purport here, try to adjust again to the threefold miseries. But by hearing that vibration, it's so sweet for somebody whose motive is attuned with his or her spiritual master, therefore the intention to only serve Krishna, all Krishna, it's not for me, it's not for my aggrandizement, it's just I want to serve Krishna. That vibration is mixed with saffron mercy particles, says Prthu Mahārāja. When you hear it, then you say, okay, I get it, I understand it, and I want to also follow that path of the pure devotees. That's the difference. Okay, we said 1, 2. Who was next? 3. Vaikundanayaka came back? Oh, that's good. Okay, who's next? I don't see his hand up yet, but we'll wait. Go ahead. Now it's a bona fide Saturday morning.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for those wonderful answers. I have a question at the last part of the purport where Prabhupada says that all material conveniences are simply awaiting a pure devotee at every step. But throughout the Shastras, we have seen that seemingly materially inconvenient situations is what the pure devotees face. So how do we understand those 2 points?
Really, the so-called inconveniences that devotees face are only an opportunity for them to take deeper shelter of Krishna. We know that from Kunti's prayers, where she says, Vipara santutasasvat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yat syad apunar bhavadarshanam. She said, I don't mind these inconveniences, although they've been severe, because every time she notes, it's been an opportunity for me to be more closely connected with you. In fact, do you know the worst hellish planet mentioned in the Bhagavatam? There are hellish conditions in the material world. We're right in the middle, so you get half and half. We're exactly in the middle of the solar system, but you know where the worst hellish planet is? It's subterranean hellish planets. There's a hellish planet that's more heavenly than even heaven. And it's so heavenly that people never remember God. Because that's their desire, and Krishna fulfills the desires of every living entity. And there, everything goes right. So you don't think of God at all. And that's considered the worst hellish condition. So your question, the devotees, like Sudama, when he went to see Krishna in Dwarka, his wife urged him. That's what wives help with a lot. It's like, hey, try to take care of yourself. They're thinking, you're not taking care of yourself. And she suggested that, why don't you go see Krishna? And even that hint that there might be this idea that I'm going to ask him for something, he didn't like that. But he thought, well, she's urging me to go see Krishna. It must be Krishna's arrangement. I'm going to go see Krishna. And she said, take a gift. And we have nothing. Borrowed from the neighbors a little hard rice, and then tied it in one of his raggedy claws, and he went there, and as you all know, he met Krishna, and Krishna knew that he had brought a gift, and then he snatched it from him because Sudama was unwilling to hand it over. Krishna took one palmful, and then Rukmini, goddess of fortune, said, no, don't take another. For various reasons. One reason was that I'm so indebted already that he's given this gift, even unwillingly, that I don't know if I can bestow enough opulence on him. And then he went home, and he was walking back, and the thought process he had was very instructive, because he thought, I'm so lucky Krishna didn't give me anything. Because I'm so puffed up, I would have taken advantage of it, and I would have forgotten him. Then when he got back and he found out that Krishna had bestowed unimaginable opulence upon him, then he thought, well, I'll just use it all in Krishna's service. And practically, even though he had everything, he just used it for serving Krishna. And Krishna, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, had given him such opulence because he felt that Sudama was attached to being unattached. So he wanted to balance out his situation a little more. Every devotee there's a different way in which it's very personal, how Krishna deals with each devotee. His full intention is to give him what's best for him so that he can be happy and engage in service, and he gives facility accordingly. As far as we're concerned, when we serve Krishna, we can see that we're taking advantage of every facility he gives us. One way to look at the way Krishna gives us facility is to examine whether or not I'm fully utilizing what he's already given. Sometimes we think, oh, I can't have more. What's your motive for more? Are you using what you have right now fully in His service? That can be our preoccupation. What I've seen, according to Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, Nanyas chintayanto mam yejana paripasite tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshema bahamyaham, which means that Krishna's saying, if you dedicate your consciousness to me, just in service, don't worry, I'll carry what you lack and preserve what you have. I quit high school. Just saying. I didn't care. I really didn't care. Everyone in my family went to school. My parents were both PhDs, and I didn't care. All I cared was Hare Krishna. And I'm not bragging, but if I look at my life compared to any of my siblings, any of my friends, anybody, practically anywhere, I can't imagine a better life. And I just didn't care. I just said, Hare Krishna, please open the door, let me in. And when I got in there, I thought, this is where I want to live. And I've never really ever wanted for anything, ever. And I never worked. I never had a job interview. So I've just seen it in my life. And also as far as spiritual desires go, I could imagine, for me, a better situation than having all of your association. Nirkul and I almost daily look at each other and said, how did this happen? How do we get in the association of such exalted devotees? We're just practically vagabonds, but somehow or other we're surrounded now. It's all Krishna's arrangement. And as far as service goes, we have so much service that any direction we turn is hey, you want some more? There's nothing lacking, ever. So one can experience in one's own life that if you adhere to the order of the spiritual master, yes, there may be times when there's anxiety or you feel that you have to make adjustments in your life. But as Prabhupada noted, even during the pandemic in 1920, there was 1920? Yeah. Talking back, not 2020, 1920. My grandmother died in that pandemic in 1920. And Prabhupada said he saw bodies piled up everywhere, but all the Vaishnavas he knew were still in blissful consciousness. They weren't affected by it. The devotees aren't affected by the material world so much. So there's a way in which, if we observe carefully and we're grateful, we can see Krishna provides whatever we need. Okay, I better hurry up because we're winding down on time. We have about 7 minutes left.
Thank you, Maharaj. Please accept my sincere obeisances. Thank you for dedicating the time for question and your deep answers. My question is about how should we have the faith that spiritual master is a representative of Krishna and they have committed to take us back to Godhead?
Look at the paperwork and just observe. For instance, if a representative comes over from Salesforce to sign a contract with it, you look at which kind of paperwork did you bring us? Is it straightforward? Does it have the corporate seal on it? Is it the opportunity that says it is? And in a very straightforward way, you can see if someone brings you an opportunity, you can match it up and say, does this match with what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, which is the ultimate pramanam? Spiritual master says, try to save souls. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, no one's more dear to me than somebody who goes out and teaches the messages of Bhagavad Gita. It's a good match. So it's not some mystery. It's very straightforward if you, as Prabhupada points out, in a conversation, a morning walk, where Vaisesika Maharaj is asking about, how is it that the spiritual master is perfect, he said. And very boldly he's asking, because a lot of people wanted to know, he said, we see the spiritual masters wearing glasses. So how is that perfect? He said, we see sometimes the spiritual master may forget a verse. How's that perfect? Prabhupada said, no, you don't understand what perfection means. It means that the spiritual master is sincerely engaged in the movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is carrying it out. And as far as one's personal relationship goes, how do you discern that anyone cares for you? It takes a while. Trust builds over time in relationships. It's the most valuable, I said intention is the most valuable substance, but anyway, they're right up there both. Trust. It's so essential for our happiness in life, in our relationships. It's also, it takes a long time to build trust, but generally in relationships over time, seeing consistency and watching someone and developing a sense of who they are, a composite. You see in different angles, different circumstances and so forth, then isn't it? I mean, if you're around somebody every day or regularly and then you see, oh, how did they react to this? What was their... You develop a natural composite and a sense of this is what I can expect from the person. Then there can be a sense of also appreciation, then it can be gratitude, then honor, that type of thing. It's not artificial. So those two things, what is the straightforward mission of a person who's representing the Sampradaya? You can check it. Is it in line with what the Sampradaya teaches? And number two, what about the individual? Get to know somebody and understand what is their heart. We're good at that as living entities. We can sense, we have this very powerful kind of sensitivity to what's in people's hearts. You don't know immediately sometimes, but after you've investigated over a long period of time, you start to develop trust. And Prabhupada said this movement is based on that, love and trust. That's all I can say for now, because I only had a few minutes left, and I have to answer more quickly. Otherwise, I'll be in really big trouble. Who do we have? Dhanavari's there. Okay, Dhanavari, go ahead. Vaikuntha Nayaka, we've been waiting for you. How's that, Dhanavari? That's Subhadra. Okay. Dhanavari, go ahead. I'll answer quickly. Ask quickly.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice. Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I just want thank you for everything you do, Prabhu. And quickly, since we don't have much time left, when you mentioned about Rajendrananda Prabhu's like talk and kirtan, and I just want to let you know that his wife, Chatura Mataji, always, I meet her often and I never get chance to convey her message. So she always says that please give her, give my obeisances to Nirukala Mataji and you. So she's very grateful and she gets tears in her eyes when she remembers you and Nirukala Mataji. So thank you so much, and I just wanted to convey her message.
Thanks, Dhanavari. He's made my day. He was a godbrother of ours, and we were very close with him for various reasons, which I won't go into now. Now we come to Vaikuntha Nayaka. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Dandavats, Maharaj, for your pleasure. Just had one realization. On the shloka that we read, there is a comment Prabhupada writes about Vani Seva. So just, and how, and the exact words are, one should serve the words of the spiritual master. This morning I was hearing one other class of some other temple, and the devotee was lamenting that he does not get enough time with his guru. But then this actually Prabhupada is saying right here, and just three examples came to my mind. One is that even Ramanujacharya, he used to visit one temple in one village in South India, give an instruction, and the disciple used to hold on to that instruction forever, for entire life, and not knowing if he will again be able to see his Guru Maharaj. And Srila Prabhupada also, I think he hardly met his Guru Maharaj for not more than 5-6 times. Maybe the net duration of the time that he met must not have been more than some 4-5 hours. But he just stuck, he just held on to that advice, to that instruction of uh, if you get money, print books. And and the third example is Your Grace, that I don't think you also had a lot of association, physical association with Srila Prabhupada. You keep telling about how Srila Prabhupada met you and other Sankirtan devotees once, and he instructed to, that he asked, "Are you also reading my books?" And how you took that to heart, reading Srila Prabhupada's books and giving out his books. So you have shown by your personal example how to stick to this Vani Seva, even though you might not have had. So there's nothing to complain about if you don't get close physical association. There's nothing to complain about. Uh, Paramatma is in my heart, and I hope he's actually conveying to you what your disciples are doing. So, Hare Krishna. Jai Hind.
Haribo, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Vaikuntha Nayaka. Okay. Last is Rasa Sindhu Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. A few weeks ago, some of the kids from ISV were at TSI. We were there, so they would recognize my question, Parth and Vaishnavi and Brajras Bhavan and others. We did a workshop on drawing your inner critic and understanding what the inner critic is, and so that it loses the power, the voices it gives us. My inner critic flares up a lot when I hear the orders of my spiritual master, and this imposter syndrome comes into play. That can I do it? Is it even possible for me? And that takes more power over the faith that I have in the words of the spiritual master, and it is paralyzing at times to even move forward. So I don't know if it applies to others, but it is very real and very true for me in this moment, and especially in the last few months. I wanted to see if you have any thoughts and guidance for me.
Well, first of all, you're very capable, and I recognized that the first time I met you at Rupanuga Prabhu's house in Laguna Beach. I thought, here's a most capable person that Krishna is sending to help expand the Sankirtan movement. And I always have that sense of you, that fully capable and sincere. I don't think you need to have any doubt about that. And in a practical way, we do, and I spoke on this yesterday on our corporate program, the masks we wear and the imposter syndrome and so forth. I noticed that it got an unusual amount of views, and unusually a large amount of views because it's a real topic. What I find is that we have to give ourselves permission to do the best we can with what we have right now. And I'm noticing the psychology of that also, which is that when I give myself or others the free will to do the best they can with what they have, then they want to do more. There is sometimes an expectation we have on ourselves that is unrealistic, or we don't really know who we are, what we look like, and how we're doing. It's helpful to have those around us who can assure us that we're doing okay, or better than okay. And it's also helpful to remember the encouraging statements that Prabhupada makes and Krishna makes himself, that, okay, start with, I'm a human. Are you human? Say yes. you can cheer up because Krishna likes you. It says there in the 11th canto that of all the species of life, Krishna especially likes the humans because they have so much potential. I mean, he likes everybody, but... And then, if you're in devotional service, you can consider that Manushyanam sahasreshu kasyid yatiti siddhaye. I'm in a very rare position. And if you can learn to appreciate where you are right now and all the assets that you've been given, you get a spring in your step. And it's less likely that you'll be overcome by this high expectation you have on yourself or you think other people have on you. And I personally like to make expectations in any of the sanghas I'm working with, any of the teams, any of the projects that are more natural. For instance, as you know well, in one of the teams you're on, I'd say the purpose for this team is for association and service. Do I not say that regularly? And how do you feel when you find out that's what it's about? It's just an opportunity, excuse if you like, to have more association and more service. I find it helpful, and as far as book distribution goes, I find, and just giving this as an example, devotees think, oh, I don't want to go out. Well, if I analyze why they don't want to go out, it's because they think they have to perform some magic. And what's everybody going to think of me if I don't perform magic? So we just say, don't worry about it. Don't even go out to distribute books. Just go out because it's fun to go out with others, or it's a nice feeling, exhilarating feeling to walk out into the great unknown. And don't put any expectation on yourself. Just go out there and stand around and see how it feels to be out there. And I find that mostly the devotees say, really? That's not true. We do have to do a circus trick, right? They're like, no, I'm not gonna. I'm just going out. I even know what's going to happen. I'm just here. I just feel lucky to be part of this. And then when everyone goes out in that spirit with no expectation, then they overperform and they feel fine. And I think we can help ourselves by redefining what our expectation is every day. And if you have a coach, a significant other, you have association with devotees that are confidential, you could say, I need some encouragement. How am I looking? How am I doing? And they can say, you're fantastic. And it's helpful for somebody to remind us of what we've done and how we're doing. So it's a common experience, and Krishna warns us not to become overwhelmed by it. In the verse, Jata Shrada Matkatasu Nirvina Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukha Kamkamam Spritya Gepyanishvara Tato Bhajeta Mamprita Shradar Lurdur Nishaya Jushamanam Shatam Kamams Dukho Darkams Jagarayan. There he recognizes there's this stage in which most people are in because they've started devotional service, seems really exciting, and then they say, oh, I have to swim across the ocean of anartha nivritti. And that's, swimming across an ocean takes a while. And then he says, but don't worry, just keep swimming. Even if you don't have the power to do what you think you should be doing, keep swimming. And then he says, at the end, Dukho Darkams to Garayan. You can have a slight bit of remorse that you're not doing as much as you wanted. He said, but don't overdo it, kid. Because you can talk yourself right out of it. You could say, oh, I'm the worst of this and that. And Prabhupada answered, you're not the worst of anything. Don't get ahead of yourself. Just be a natural person and be happy and go on with your service and everything's going to be okay. There's sections where Prabhupada says, if all you do is stay alive, just take a little prasadam and finish your hearing and chanting. Live out your life. You've been a success. Start from that position. Then you can add on a little bit more according to what you can do. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. We're leaving on Monday, Nirkula and me. Usually I leave first, she goes second, so it's especially stressful this time because when I leave before her, I don't care if I forget something. It's like, oh, by the way, I forgot my passport. So we've been in this jam mode. It's kind of instructional because it's leaving one's orbit. This is our life and soul here. You're our life and soul here. And leaving here is always, we're acknowledging the austerity. And of course, when we get to another orbit, then we feel natural there. We feel it's important for us at this stage in our life to travel and especially go to the Dham. The point about Prabhupada saying, read my books. This will be our 23rd year of spending the whole Kartik in just Govardhana doing nothing but reading. Except, of course, we do have a little prasadam. And hopefully we'll be fortified by that. We'll definitely be missing you. Remembrances of Kartik here during the pandemic are especially sweet. I thank everyone for all you're doing. It's just so heartfelt to see everyone engage in service and having this opportunity that we have here to be together and ask these questions, read Prabhupada's books, try to distribute them to other people and develop a community that's inviting for lots of people to come. We couldn't be more grateful. I wanted to also express, it's been so spiritually overwhelming, the gathering we had 2 weeks ago when everyone came, and it was noticeably a kind of spiritual resonance that was uplifting, and I'm extremely grateful to all of you for the words of encouragement, the expressions of love, the gifts, that it's in the best sense of the term, drinking from a fire hose. And I'm uplifted by your association, and I'm deeply grateful. And we'll be back around November 20th, ready to get back into everything here. So please take care of one another and take care of yourselves, and just take every day as an opportunity. Be grateful for the opportunity to go on another day in devotional service. Is everyone okay? Yes. Okay. You're better than okay, by the way, but I just thought I'd check. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Panchatattva, Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Lakshmana Shringadev, we're eternally grateful to you for gathering us all here in this Silicon Valley so that we can work together as scientists do in a laboratory to invent means to expand the Krishna consciousness movement all over Silicon Valley, all over California, and export whatever works all over the world. We are open to unlimited resources, which we intend to use in your service. We're especially grateful for devotees who come here in whatever stage of their practice they're in, and we desire to have their association and to help them in every way that we can. And we also pray that we may beat Mayapur. So put it up on the map, because that's where we're going for next. This ISV, mark my words, we're going to be the top book distribution temple in the world. I don't care about per capita, I don't care about differences in prices, but we're going to beat them. Write it down, put it up on a chart, and let's get to work. We want to be the top place on the planet. Okay? Thank you. Vanchakalpadivrisha, Kripasinabhevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha, Nantakoti Vaishnaviniki Jai, Gaur Premanande, Haribol.